Hey everyone, I'm Matt. Yeah, I'm been doing research on other places and stuff like that. And if you want me to continue in Louisiana or just talk about places I find over the internet, let me know. And without any further introduction, let's get started. Located at 514 Parrot Street in New Orleans, iconic French Quarter looms the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum. The, the stately townhouse was originally an I cannot say this word, apothecary by the first pharmacist in the United States. In addition to its historical significance, the museum is known for being haunted by a wicked doctor and his victims. There are countless tales about the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum and the many other haunted locations in the city. Over the years, visitors and staff have encountered the ghost of James Dupaz, a malicious doctor who committed the unknown number of medical atrocities within the building. Now it's believed that his ghost, as well as those of the victims, haunt the museum. The story of New Orleans Pharmacy begins in 1788 when the Louis Defleo Jr. was born in France to get his degree in Paris College of Pharmacy. When Defleo returned to New Orleans in 1816, he opened the apothecary with his brother and became the first licensed pharmacist in the United States. In 1822, Defleo commissioned architect J.N.B. de Pouilly to build a townhouse for him in his in the French Quarter. Defleo, and before I continue, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing this wrong. I'm not really good with French names, so if I'm pronouncing this wrong, I apologize in advance. Defleo moved into the home with his wife and 7 children the following year. The ground floor was the apothecary, and the upper floors were the living quarters for him and his family. The other retail spaces on the ground floor included post office, hardware store, and soda fountain. As a result, the Defleo resort became a popular destination in the French Quarter. Louis Defleo became known for his contribution to the modern medicine. He was an expert in mixing herbs and helped heal the sick. He also found a remedy for yellow fever, which was killing 1 in 6 New Orleans residents, including Defleo's brother. It should also be noted that Louis Defleo was a slave owner. These enslaved people had not been permitted in the pharmacy due to the fears that they would poison Defleo's slave-holding client. There are also rumors that he appropriated some voodoo practices, which he incorporated into his work. In 1950, the townhouse on Districts was transformed into the New Orleans Pharmacy Museum, since it had acquired an extensive collection of both over 10,000 medical and pharmacy artifacts. After more than 30 years in business, Louis sold his successful apothecary to a physician turned out to be one of the most evil men in New Orleans. In 1855, Dr. James Dupaz purchased the apothecary from Louis Defleo for $18,000. It didn't take long before the apothecary's reputation steadily declined. It seemed that Dr. possessed patients became sicker than the longer they saw him. Others became addicted to cocaine and heroin, which he regularly prescribed. Neighbors noted that not every patient who entered Dr. Dupé's practice left. It took years for the shocking truth to finally come out. On the second floor of the apothecary, Dr. Dupé's carrying a atrocious medical experience. He would use drills, scalpels, scissors to perform unnecessary surgeries. He would also poison the patients and give them concoctions that he knew would make them sick. That makes his crimes especially despicable, in the fact that he performed them largely on enslaved pregnant women and other unwilling victims. The horrendous nature of Dr. Dupé's experiments often left babies with disabilities and, in some cases, in the result of the death of both the mother and the child. Dr. Dupé's reign of terror in the French Quarter came to an abrupt end when he died in 1867. His death was caused by a complication of syphilis, which is said to have driven him insane. Tragically, there was no justice for his victims. Centuries after he committed the heinous crimes, the spirit of Dr. Dupé remains trapped for his former practice. He could punish for the punishment for his horrific medical experiences. Perhaps Dupé is still connected to the pharmacy even in death. And for the reason, he is nearly as unpleasant as he was as in living. Dupé appears as a middle-aged man, shortly built with a mustache. He wears a brown suit with a matching top hat, along with a lab coat. The hacker is generally encountered near the staircase in the back of the pharmacy, which led to the site of his sadistic medical experiences. The ghost of Dr. Dupé is known for throwing books around the museum and rearranging cabinets that were locked. The security alarm at the museum regularly goes off for no reason, which is largely a tribute to Dr. Dupé's malevolent energy. Several ghosts were sent to haunt the New Orleans pharmacy, a female apparition who is reported in the courtyard behind the museum. There is a speculation that she was one of Dr. Dupé's victims, but her spirit has never been identified. Two ghost children have also been seen inside the museum, but their identities also remain a mystery. One theory of these ghosts is said to mean the attachment to items in the vast medical artifacts collection at the museum. Okay. Visitors come to the museum and let themselves being pushed by an unseen entity. Objects in the museum regularly move around their own. Pregnant women commonly experience nausea and stomach cramps, which may be believed to the doctor's Lopez medical experience on pregnant enslaved women. So, with all of that being said, I've been finding a lot of small stories, and a lot of it is really sad of what happened in New Orleans. And since this is a short video, I think I'm gonna add one more story into this one. So it's gonna be a two in one video. So hopefully you guys don't mind. I'll try to figure out how to edit all of the unneeded ums and ifs off and unneeded other things. But as of right now, did anyone see that faint? I mean, that's dust, I can tell. But that faint thing that was behind me, usually put them in my hair, or dust from the top and the layer. But it's weird that yeah. Anyway, so with the end of the pharmacy video, or story, here's another one at the Oak Alley Plantation. The Oak Alley Plantation is a historical plantation located west of the bank of the Mississippi River in the community of Foxerie, St. James Parish, Louisiana. U.S. Oak Alley is named after the disgusting visual feature and distinguishing, not disgusting, I'm so sorry, distinguishing visual feature alley or Conopine path created by a double row of southern live oak trees about 800 feet tall and 240 meters in long. The plantation is in the early 18th century, long before the present house was built. The alley or tree avenue runs between the home and the river. The property was designed a national historic landmark for the architecture and landscaping, and for the agriculture invention of grafting pecan trees performed there in 1846 and 47. By an enslaved Northerner, it was first known by Monsignor. The grounds included a formal garden installed by Josephine Stewart, the separate of the mansion from the old garden. The old car garage is a temporary site for sugarcane theater, where the history of sugarcane cultivation is explained throughout videos and exhibits. A blacksmith shop and the Stewart graveyard are also on the grounds. The design of is Great Revival architecture. The mansion has a square floor plan organized around the central hall and that runs from the front to the rear of both floors. The rooms feature a high ceiling and large windows. The exterior features freestanding colonnade of 28 dormant columns on the floor sides that are commonly featured on the antebellum mansions of the Mississippi River Valley. Construction of the bricks made on the site, the 16 wall finish with stucco on the exterior, painted with the white to resemble marble. Had four dormitories at the rooms dormitories on one each side of the hipped roof. During the restoration in the 1920s, rooms on the first floor were partitioned at the adapt as the kitchen. Also, the staircase was moved to the southwest corner to the central hall, and the black and white marble floors were replaced with wood floors. So, oh my eye. Finally, the number of dormers on the roof was increased to 3 floors on each side. The Bond Senior Plantation as Oak Alley, was originally named was established to grow sugarcane, but the French Cyrillio Gallagher Ami when he purchased the land in 1830. Ami knew that New Kingdom Sugar was one of the wealthiest men in the South. In 1936, Walter Ami exchanged a piece of property with his brother-in-law Jacques Telesor Roman for a plantation owned by Roman. The following year, people enslaved by Jacques Roman began building the Pressed Mansion. Under the oversight of George Swaley, the mansion was completed in 1939. Roman's father-in-law, Joseph Pelé, was an architect and prominently designed the house. And Antony, a slave gardener of Oak Alley Plantation, was the master of technique of graphing, and after trial with several trees, succeeded in the winter of 1846 in producing a variety of pecans that would be cracked with one's bare hands. The shell was so thin it was dubbed the pepper shell pecan. It was later named the Central Middle variety where entered in the competition at the 1876 Hereditable Exposition in Philadelphia, where it won a prize. The trees may be found throughout the southern Louisiana, where the pecan was once a considerable crop. Although Antony's original trees were cleared for most of the sugarcane fields after the Civil War, a commercial grove has been planted in a nearby Anita Plantation. Unfortunately, the native crispus of 1890 was washed away, and native plantation all remains from the original central pecans. Jacques Roman died in 1848 of tuberculosis, and the state began to be managed by his wife, Marie Theresa Josephine Piley Roman. Helena did not have a skill for managing a sugar plantation, and her heavy spending nearly bankrupted the state. In 1859, her son Henry took control of the estate and tried to turn things around. The plantation was not physically damaged during the American Civil War, but the economic dislocations, the war and ending of slavery made it no longer economically viable. Henry became severely in debt, mainly to his family. In 1866, I cannot read tonight, his uncle, Valco Ami, and his sisters, Octavie and Louise, put the plantation up for auction, and it was sold for US $32,800. To John Armstrong and Herbert Bonsonio. The Oak Alley Plantation is often referred as to one of the most haunted homes in Louisiana, and for no good reason. The property has several resident apparitions that make regular appearances, and the new ghost sightings are reported constantly. These spiritual anomalies are commonplace in the area surrounding New Orleans. In In 1820, the property was brought to raise sugarcane, and enslaved people were used for labor to work on the acres. Catherine Roman took ownership of the land and decided to live there. From 1834 to 1837, his mansion was built. Amongst the materials shipped in via steamboats, it was vastly expensive and exhausting construction process. Roman slaves carried out the entire building process, while there are records of several enslaved people escaping. There were between these and records. There were between 110 and 120 enslaved people leaving the property at a time. As they lived in one small area known as the quarters, disease spread quickly through the population, especially in the mid-1850s, when there was a yellow fever outbreak. While the days of owning slaves were over, the memory of the plantation's morbid history wasn't forgotten. While the plantation now acts as a museum, staff and visitors alike continue to see strange sightings throughout the property, like dust boiling around the house when there isn't a breeze to be found. And so, who is responsible for these strange occurrences? Recognizable from their old photos, staff believe it was several homeowners seem to be trapped within the walls. The question remains, have they also stayed in their beloved estate? Or are they unable to leave? One of the Roman children was Louise. Having raised in a high society, Louise had certain expectations for her courting process when she turned of age. One night, a drunk gentleman seller stopped by and either tried to force himself up on Louise or just really offended her. Either way, Louise wanted to get away in a hurry and began running up the long staircase. As was the fashion at the time, Louise was wearing a dress net with a loop in it. She ended up tripping over the dress. As she fell, she broke her leg quite badly. While the doctors did their best, a grenade set in. Gangrene set in. She eventually had to have it amputated. After the accident, no man would come near Louise, and she died alone. Today, the most commonly spotted apparition is a woman in black, often seen with black hair or wearing a black garment. She's been seen riding a pale horse throughout the property or standing near the staircase. People believe this is Louise. Though heartbroken, cries are often heard throughout the home. Many believe these are Louise's. Additionally, people have also experienced an intense sudden dread when ascending the steps. One of the most famous ghost stories from the Oak Valley Plantation involved 4 workers. After locking up for the night, they noticed from in the parking lot a light in one of the upstairs bedrooms was still on. They were sure all the lights had been turned off. As they looked closer at the bedroom window, they saw a woman looking down at them. Familiar with the family history, they recognized the woman as Celestine Stewart, the home's last owner. Rather than investigating further, the 4 drove off in their cars, and when they looked back, the house was dark. Medicine staff often hear horses neighing and clopping around the property. Specifically, they'll also hear what sounds like a carriage being drawn by a horse. The problem is, when they go to look at the horse, there is nothing there. In fact, the property doesn't even look doesn't even own a parents anymore. These can only be explained by the reminders from the plantation heyday, furniture and the objects throughout the Oak Alley Mansion tend to mysteriously move on their own accord, with no person sitting in the rocking chairs, for example, have been spotted rocking on their own, on rocking in unison with no person in the seat. Another incident involved a candlestick being thrown across the room. This happened during a tour when over 30 people witnessed the grueling event. Just an hour away from the Oak Valley Plantation is the beating heart of Louisiana culture, New Orleans. New Orleans had ties to the underworld because of its quite unusually dark history. Between its above-ground cemeteries and voodoo practitioners, many people felt closer to the dead in New Orleans than anywhere else in America. If people wanted to be in the area where the most spiritual activity, you can't beat the French Quarter. Home to famously haunted mansions like the Beefroot Gardens House and La Laurie Mansion, guests can hear the cries of Madame La Lauren's victims, or maybe even spot a shadowy figure. For a truly bewitching experience of New Orleans, how about you book a tour? I mean, I would certainly want to. But obviously, I probably won't be doing that for a while because I don't live anywhere near New Orleans. But with that being said, I had to add another story into this video because it would have been way too short. But thank you for watching my channel and videos. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I am Haunted Girl, and I'll spook you later. The paranormal is my playground. And until next time, pleasant dreams.